Hey there, I'm Chappie, and this is Sketching Out Lorcana. Let's say I'm sitting down with two people. Person one, let's name them Brandon, has only played the original Kingdom Hearts. Person two, let's name them Dingus, has only played Kingdom Hearts 2. And then there's me, Chappie, who has played all the Cage games, designs the big key swords, and posts said designs to Twitter.com, and has gotten a platinum trophy for Kingdom Hearts 2 twice. Ask my fellow sitters, what do you think is the hardest secret boss in Kingdom Hearts? Brandon says, well, I think Sephiroth is the hardest Kingdom Hearts boss, period. Dingus replies with, Sephiroth, please. I beat him so easily, but I'm stuck trying to defeat the Data Organization 13. That Data Luxord fight is no joke. Now, in my opinion, there's another KH2 secret boss that makes these two look like a walk in the dang park. But the crazy thing about all three opinions is that they're all valid opinions. Both Brandon and Dingus's views on the Kingdom Hearts games is limited, while mine is excessive. This means that even with our opinions butting heads, we all have different perspectives on the matter, different ways that we view the subject and tackle our understanding of it. And that is how we move on to our topic today, perspective. It's yet another part of the huge machine that is art, which is honestly used pretty spectacularly within Lorcana. We're going to tackle not only the artistic aspect, but also a narrative and third, mystery aspect, as we talk about perspective in this chapter of Sketching Out Lorcana. So, I know what you're all wondering. You've been clamoring together at the front gates of the Sketching Out Lorcana lot in Hollywood and screaming out, Chappie, Chappie, tell us, what is perspective? What does it mean to exactly put things into perspective? Or how is it used within art? Well, let's break it down from just a basic definition standpoint, and then we can tackle how it applies to art itself. I feel like the definition leads into the artistic principle pretty well. So let's jump in. What's perspective? Perspective is just a fancy word for saying your own viewpoint on a matter. When you talk about putting things into perspective, you're asking someone to step into the shoes of someone else and view it from their point of view. It's your view of the world, how you take it in, how you interact with it. Each perspective is different and unique and has its own story. Now let's take that next step. How does perspective translate into the art realm? Well, throughout the history of art, there have been attempts at capturing and translating three-dimensional views into art, going all the way back to the Hellenistic age in Greece around the 4th century BC. But it's widely believed that the origin of perspective in art came from Filippo Brunelleschi, an architect during the Renaissance. All the way back in 1425, old Pippo figured out that you could capture the feelings of a three-dimensional space within art by replicating a view of the Florence baptistry. He even had friends come over, look through a hole in the back of the painting towards the baptistry itself, and then had them look again through that hole but at a mirror that reflected his work. Just to be like, yeah, that big building over there, yeah, I figured out how to do it in art. I made perspective in art. I'm cool. Man, good for that guy, right? But years and years went by, and more was put into the use of practice, until it was made fundamental and a pure part of the trade instead of just a Renaissance experiment. To answer my initial query, perspective in art is used to capture a three-dimensional scene within a two-dimensional medium. Have you ever drawn a square, then put another smaller square behind it, and then connected the corresponding corners with lines? Well, congratulations! You created a box on a piece of paper and have used perspective in your art. You're an artist. You know, in Ratatouille, there's the like ghost cook guy from the book that says, "Ha ha, ratatouille, mon ami. Anyone can cook." Well, anyone can art too. Where's my dang book, huh? Where's my little rat protege that can do mind control with hair, huh? Where's my little chef? Back to my point. The basis of perspective is achieved through establishing four things: a subject, a horizontal line, lines of sight, and a vanishing point. Keep in mind that not all art needs these to show perspective, but we'll get back to that in a little while. Let's use a Lorcana card for an example to find all four. Let's see. This is a great one. Let's go with one of my favorites from Ursula's Return. Donald Duck, Musketeer Soldier. Look at that Donald. Doesn't he look happy and so giddy and just happy with life? He's so adorable. So we know that Donald is the subject, but what about the other three? Well, let's detail what the other three are and go from there. A horizon line is the term used for the extent of the vision ahead. Think of it like you're standing on a road, and you look down the road towards the farthest point you can see. That broad line that cuts off the road is the horizon line. It's what visually separates Earth from sky, like it's literally her horizon. We can see the horizon line right here. Now, lines of sight for this piece are tricky, but they're still there. Lines of sight are the key to nailing the perspective. These are the lines that come closer together the closer that they get to the horizon line, really selling us on the feeling of that third dimension. The lines of sight in this piece are here and here. Like I said, not as clear cut and a little janky, but still there. Now, these converge in the horizon at a vanishing point. Going back to the road analogy, this is the point at which your sight ends at the horizon and the road looks to become just one point, a vanishing point. Art pieces can have two or even three, and we've got one here since we see that path Donald's running down extend a bit more into the background. Perspective is really great in helping us get engrossed within the art we're viewing. It helps us not only envision the scene playing out, but also sells it as more than just pretty cardboard or a pretty piece of paper. There's a world in there waiting to be explored. So what are some great uses of perspective in Lorcana? Let's take a look at some cards that really nail the traditional perspective, and then look at some super interesting uses. Let's start off with a simple yet complex perspective piece, and the subject of our thumbnail, Beast, Relentless. This guy's a powerhouse, and I absolutely adore this art by Ari Welly. You can see a line to the right that separates the thunderous, stormy sky from the castle facade around our subject. And that just so happens to be our horizon line, even though it's cut off and slightly slanted. Within that knowledge, we can look at the towers behind Beast and look towards their tops to see the lines of sight, crooning down towards our skewed horizon. What's cool about this is that there are vanishing points, but one of them is off the art piece to the left. It's super cool. But you know what's even cooler? The fact that the Beast himself is used to sell the three dimensions. He forms a line of sight. From the tip of his extending knuckle to the pad of his pushed off paw. The Beast is an absolute beast. Is that silly to say out loud? Is that cringe? Am I being cringe? Comment below, gamers. Let me know. So, so what about art pieces that show an enclosed space? You can show perspective off with that too, right? Of course. Let's look at Magic Broom Dancing Duster. We have an assortment of Magic Broom cards to choose from, but this one happens to fit the bill we need. This one's pretty straightforward. In the background we see the wall that the door is built into, and the bottom of that wall is the horizon line. The bottom of both walls conjoined to the back wall are the lines of sight, while the point that they connect to is at the vanishing points. With how this art is positioned, it's very unique in the fact that it seems to place us right in front of the broom. Like we the viewers are another broom chilling and cleaning the hall with it. It's really cool. Let's take the slightest detour and tackle another form of perspective, and that's atmospheric perspective. To help nail down what this is, let's look at the song card Go the Distance. I am on my way, I can go the distance. Bro, this song's such a bop. Just looking at the energy capture within this card makes me want to sing the whole song. I stopped myself because I wanted to sing more, and I want to subject y'all to that. So we have the subject being Hercules riding Pegasus, but where the horizon, the lines of sight, and the vanishing points? Well, instead of using the artistic principles taught to us using perspective, artists have learned from the real world and scientific observances to display perspective as well. Funnily enough, I learned this while writing my Twitter thread about perspective. The further away an object is in real life, the lighter it's going to appear. Why is that? Because over the distance between you and that object, there's more atmosphere, so the color gets washed out by the inclusion of all that atmosphere between you and the object. Gaku Kumatori displays that brilliantly with Go the Distance. You see these first couple of mountain peaks to the bottom right in vibrant earth hues, and then you go a step further back with the mountain peaks around it, and the color desaturates a little. Take an even further step back, and you get a full mountain that's even more desaturated. And then each step further back is more and more and more desaturation until the last peak in the very back almost blends in with the horizon itself. It's excellent. It's brilliant. Here's a little fun fact while we're here. Last week we talked about ink identity, and Ruby's ink identity in shape language is lightning bolts. Within the cracks of the crags in this art, you can see red little lightning bolt patterns streaking into the peaks. How awesome is that? Alright, let's look at another one of my favorite Ursula return cards. Aurora, Tranquil Princess. This card, this art's so beautiful. I love the perfect portrayal of a tranquil grove that Aurora's making, even more tranquil with the play of a harp. While this helps set the atmosphere for the card, we're also given atmospheric setting for perspective as well. You like what I did there? Aurora and her avian friends are at the focus of this piece along with her little bench, so they're the most vibrant and illuminated by the light source above. Then we have the flower bushes behind her and her bench, just slightly desaturated. Then we move to the bushes and trees behind that, working back and back and back until we have the background color that just has the slightest shade or hue of a tree trunk to give a spark of color and depth within. It's just gorgeous. I love how serene it is. Dude, props to Coney. Coney does awesome work with Lorcana. Just shout out to them. That's so pretty. Okay, so we know there's a narrative form of perspective, right? Like how in a book, I can refer to myself as me in the first person, or I can refer to myself as Chappie in the third person. Who's to say that we can't portray this within art as well? With artists playing around within the frame of the card art, they can give access to something super unique, a card drawn in a first-person perspective. I took to Twitter and asked if anyone knew about Lorcana cards that were drawn in first-person perspective, and Rebecca from the Illuminary got one of my examples. Nala, Fear's friend, is drawn as if we the viewers are taking the place of Cub Simba, and Nala's just tackled us and pinned us to the ground. It's achieved so wonderfully with the art. There's an enlargement of her paws to make them seem more in our face, accompanied with the eye contact directly out from the card. What's even more brilliant to me is the lighting. The majority of Nala is lit to show that she's standing over the viewer, with the light source bathing at the back of her head, parts of her front legs, and even her back to show she's blocking out the light. That's such a nice little attention to detail. It just sells the perspective so much more. Let's stay in steel and veer over to the more sinister portrayal within the first person. Hans, 13th in line. This time, it's almost as if we've taken the place of Elsa towards the end of the first Frozen movie. Hans looks menacing here, and the menace is accentuated with that crazed look in his eye. Again, unnatural eye contact. There aren't many cards in Lorcana that break the wall by doing that. Or break the fourth wall, excuse me. But check this out. There's also atmospheric perspective at play here. His enlarged closer hand is so neatly detailed and crisp. We can make out the folds of his fingers within his glove fabric and where his palm bends towards his thumb. As we work back, we not only see his form slowly lose saturation, but we also lose detail from the blizzard surrounding him. Before we get too lost within the atmosphere while moving back to the backdrop, we're brought back to Earth by the glint of a metallic sword to keep our wits about us. Kendall Hill is a genius for using this. It's mind-blowing. It's so good. Let's stay in steel and in set 1 for the next example. Break. Now this is a unique depiction because, well, while it doesn't show one for one what we've learned from perspective principles, the art still tells the story of the card so purely. So yeah, We're just looking at a broken chair, right? No. Do you see that shadow creeping from the bottom of the card? Lining up pretty well with where our viewpoint is, where our perspective is? Yeah. This art's drawn from the viewpoint of the beast, as if we're looking from a first person perspective. We are the beast. We're the one breaking. In the game, we're breaking the item, our opponent's item or our item, whatever. That's super neat. I'm going to keep with Beauty and the Beast energy and show you guys an Amber song. Be our guest, be our guest. Now, the basic perspective points are here, and we can see a horizon, the table's back edge, and lines of sight, the dishes leading to the sides. But from a first person perspective, who is Be Our Guest sung to? While it's up to interpretation, we could easily replace her with an Illuminator. I think it's pretty obvious. We're Belle. We're sitting in Belle's seat. I don't think Lorcana cards ever made me feel pretty and smart. I like this. Wait, is that normal? Do I need to get my head checked out? Do I need to see a doctor? Am I infected? Okay, so there's one more instance in use of perspective that I really wanted to talk about, because it's so integral to Disney. And yes, for those of you that know where I'm going to be a Disney theme parks nerd again this week and bring up forced perspective. Now, for anyone who knows, this isn't something usually done within 2D art mediums. This is usually something done with architecture. For those who don't know, forced perspective is when optical illusions are used within an art piece to give a sense of it being a different scale than it actually is. The reason why I bring up the Disney theme parks is because this is famously used in structures like the iconic castles for each park. Let's take Cinderella Castle in Disney World for instance. Cinderella's castle is huge, and the base has large bricks to sell that idea. And as the structure grows higher, the bricks appear to grow smaller and smaller. This makes Cinderella Castle, a 189 foot tall structure, seem closer to like 300 feet tall. It's super impressive. Now that you're sitting there, you're fuming behind the screen. I know y'all are fuming behind the screen of your phone, your laptop, your TV, whatever you're watching. And you're saying, Chappie, I'm sick of this. You're lying to me. There's no way that they use these tricks in my Lorcana. And I just want to say, please, keep watching this and hit the subscribe button and like button. And please listen to me. I'm the art boy. I know a thing or two. I found two. I'm so sorry for that. I found two cards that used forced perspective to a degree. And lo and behold, they're both location cards. These locations both use forced perspective to get across different points. And it's all laid out there within the art. So let's take a look, shall we? We're going to first look at my favorite enchanted from set 3, Pride Lands, Pride Rock. This art is absolutely breathtaking. I would love to live here. How did Ravensburger get a picture of my house on a card? Can I contact authorities about this? Can I get royalties? Now, the perspective is awesome. The lighting is awesome. But I want to call attention in particular to the amber coils of clouds in the background. Even though they're clouds, the peak of Pride Rock towers a considerable distance above them. This really gives us the scoop on how important this location is, not only within the Lion King mythos or the Lorcana mythos, but also the dynasty of Disney. It's just that powerful, and it's really sold with the use of perspective, particularly forced perspective in this case. For the second card, let's hit the location from Ursula's Return that shows us some forced perspective. Training Grounds, Impossible Pillar. Dude, the more you look at this, the more you see it, the more you realize. Like, I looked at this initially and I was like, yeah, that's forced perspective. And then I looked more into it, I was like, oh my gosh, like, it's used so well. Let's take a deep dive into it. We are putting an angle to where it looks like we're down in this mud, like we're next to nothing and groveling at this structure. This lone pillar, which we know from Mulan, is the structure that Mulan has to climb and prove her worth within the army and stay training with them. Now, we get some awesome uses of perspective with the tents on each side, and there's a horizon line, and there's lines of sight and vantage points. But there's even atmospheric perspective within the mountains in the background. But wait a second. Let's focus on those mountains. The tallest known point on Earth is a mountain. We know intrinsically, it's written into our DNA, that mountains are tall and unmoving. Within our perspective, there's a couple of tent poles from this perspective that appear taller than some of the mountains. And that could lead to, a general ranking or something, a higher ranking, like maybe that's Shang's tent. But there's mountains on the other side that are taller, so he's still unmovable or movable compared to the mountains. The only thing in this entire piece that's taller than those mountains is the pillar, the subject of the piece. It's used to show how daunting and impressive the pillar is. It's purposeful. The center of the piece is taller from this perspective than any of the mountains surrounding it. That just shows how impressive and daunting the task is. It's beautiful. This this is the ultimate culmination of perspective in Lorcana, and it's a common location in Ruby. It's awesome, and there's so much more. Let me mention a couple more off the top of my head. Sharecom Menacing Predator. It's a truly menacing card from a perspective sense, because it puts you within the first person. The foliage is set within the foreground of the piece to ease you in the feeling that he's truly a predator stalking you in the jungle. Let's look at Basil Perspective Investigator. It's a wonderful use of perspective that puts us in Basil's shoes. We see things from his point of view as the storybook from which glimmers are summoned looks monolithic and powerful in the background. It literally looks like a tower. And yet another play of perspective. Jafar, Keeper of Secrets. Our focus is so caught up on this version of Jafar that it takes a while to realize he's become the Cave of Wonders. To some degree, at least. So he's larger than usual. But then you look even closer and he's bigger than even the Cave of Wonders is usually. And all we need for that is just the smallest, littlest hint of perspective, which is that camel right there within the heart. That little drop, it's masterful. It's purposeful. That's one single little detail that goes above and beyond to aid in the story. And that's why Lorcana is just so awesome with their art. Or rather, one of the many innumerable reasons. Like, the list goes on and on and on. And we'll be sure to talk about more about them going forward. Until then, thank you guys for listening to me yap and keep going on and on about this art. I just love it. And I hope you guys stick with me for the next ones. I know this one was really silly, but I hope you guys keep on questing, and I'll see y'all real soon. Alright, so this week we got some Sketching Out Lorcana questions. I got a couple questions for this video, and then I got one from Citizens of Lorcana a couple videos back, or it might have been last video, I can't remember. But it was a couple weeks back. It was last video. So I'm going to knock out Citizens of Lorcana's question first. Do you think Disney would have become as big as it has with Oswald as the main mascot instead of Mickey Mouse? I think it still would have been big. Disney would still be as prevalent as it is today. Just because I think Oswald still has appeal as a character. I still think, like, he's got enough circular shape language to be, like, appealing and be approachable for, a mascot, like a main mascot. So I think he would be, like, he's pretty much got the star potential, I think Walt still would have created Mickey and just made him, like, a side character, kind of like Goofy or Donald, like, made him part of the crowd. But I do think it would have caused, like, a butterfly effect, sort of. Like, what if him going with Oswald instead of Mickey, what if that caused him, like, he didn't want to do Snow White and Seven Dwarfs first? What if he wanted to do Tangled first? And it would have been Rapunzel and Flynn Rider. That would have been the new name. Like, what if we would have gotten movies swapped? What if we would have gotten new movies altogether? What if the time periods for like Disney's low times and high times were switched. Like, what if the Dark Age for Disney was like the Renaissance that we know, like with Lion King and Little Mermaid and all that? It's crazy to think about. I think stuff like that would have happened. That's a really cool question. Okay. So my second question is from Phoenix Burst. My buddy Finn over at the Keyblade Forge asked, "How would someone who knows nothing about Lorcana get into the series? What would you personally recommend?" So I would recommend, for sure, if you're looking to get into Lorcana, find somebody that wants to get into Lorcana with you. Like, if you have a sibling or a friend, bring it up to them. Be like, "Hey, there's this new card game from Disney. It's got cool versions of their characters in it. Do you want to play it with me?" If they want to play it with you, then for sure, get some of the starter decks. Like, get a starter deck for you and your friend. You can get the starter decks at Walmart, Target, and if you can't find them at Walmart or Target in your area, then I would for sure go online. TCG Player, you can go on TCG Player, get a list of the cards from the starter decks, and you can take those cards on TCG Player and build a deck from that for like half the price of the actual starter deck that you get in the stores. So if you want to do that, that's a great way too. Maybe you just want to collect. Maybe you don't even want to play the game. If you want to just collect the cards, I play with my wife. Me and my wife, we're more so collectors. We are literally the most casual of the casual Lorcana fans. We take whatever cards we like and we take them and we put them in our binder. We've got hollows in there, we've got non-hollows in there. Some of our more like awesome legendaries. She just pulled Hollow Mulan, and then her first Ursula's return package, her first booster pack. She got Mulan Elite Archer. That's her favorite card ever, or one of her favorite cards ever. We've got that in the binder. We've got so much in our binder. I recommend getting a binder if you want to collect them. A binder with card sleeves. Dude, Finn, you do whatever you want, dude. It's your call, buddy. Whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy with Lorcana, you do it. But that's my personal take, you know? Like, I would, if you want to play, get some card decks, the starter decks, and find somebody you want to play with. If you want to collect, then get a binder and start getting the packs and collecting the art. The art's so cool. Alright. Now for the last question, we got it from Lorcana Bell. So Lorcana Bell asked me what the topic of this week's Sketching Out Lorcana was, and I told her it's perspective. So then she ran with that and said, "Here's a fun one then. Is there any card art you think could be used for another card almost as is, with just a shift of perspective to make another character or the location or item the focus of the image?" That's really cool. I like that question. So off the top of my head, I'm just like thinking of, there's a couple that I can think of right now. They're both emerald, funnily enough. So I feel like there's the card The Beast Is Mine, which is an action and emerald. If you move that like to the left slightly and still kept that frame of the beast in the card with like the spirit stuff coming out, like the magic coming out from the revelation, that could be a really cool Gaston card. Like, it could be like a Gaston card of him, like it could be like Gaston Beast Hunter or something, and it could show him like showing off the beast for like, "This is my kill," and stuff like that, you know. I think that could be a cool card. I also think Vicious Betrayal from the first set. I think that can make two cards if you just have to zoom into the art and just change that perspective a little bit to where you focus on one part of it being Mufasa, make him the center of it, and it could be Mufasa betrayed brother. And then you go to the top right, you zoom in on Scar, and it could be Scar, Vicious brother, or Vicious usurper, which could link them to their other cards the Amber card, and the Ruby card, respectively, for Mufasa and Scar. And it could also, you know, still use that perspective. But yeah, that was a really cool question. They were all really cool questions. I really enjoy these. If you have any questions yourself, leave them below the video, and I'll answer them in future Sketching Out Lorcana videos. But yeah, that's going to be it for this week. You guys keep on questioning, and I'll see you real soon. Huh?